We have a report and a discussion. This is a progress report on the superintendent's work plan, and this is specifically on the implementation progress report on the board's policy on quality school development. Turn the floor over to the superintendent.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As you know, one of the key elements of the strategic plan, Community Schools Thriving Students, is to have a high-quality, valid, and reliable accountability system. This has been in development for many years and with much, I think, success. And at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Montes de Oca.
Great, thank you. I believe we have a PowerPoint. Excellent. So good evening, board directors, superintendent, staff, community. My name is David Montes de Oca with Oakland Unified School District. It's our pleasure this evening to provide to the board and to the community an update presentation on the policy that the board approved last April, which is the Quality School Development Policy. A part of our goals this evening is to provide the board with both an update on progress in the development of the implementation and implementation planning regarding that policy. We were also asked to discuss some specific aspects of that policy in terms of both its intended meaning and ways in which we would expect to develop those areas in terms of the implementation. We've been asked to also consider this policy in relation to other key priorities within the district, as well as provide some context for the board's future policy development and budget priorities. So with that in mind, we just want to reinforce that it's our view that this policy supports our overall notion that continuous improvement ought to be our consistent goal, and that ultimately, as a district, we want to become the best at getting better. And so in light of that, we see this policy as a real reinforcement of our ability to continuously improve our schools. So as discussed previously, we'll provide an overview, both the purpose and the elements of the policy as well as its impact. We want to start by acknowledging the purpose of the policy, which is largely to provide the infrastructure and support for our ability to continue to develop the capacity of schools and the central organization to engage in continuous quality improvement. And most importantly, it provides us an opportunity to formalize key developments since the approval of the strategic plan that we've been engaged with as a district in order to support quality school development in our city. And so specifically, it integrates key aspects of what we've been in development to date, which includes our school quality standards, which was approved by the board in its strategic plan, the balanced scorecards that have been in development both for the district as a whole and for individual schools, our school quality review process, both the reports that are generated as well as the support that's subsequently provided, our community school strategic site planning, which is the redesigned site plans all schools create. The district's budget priorities focused on the disparities in achievement for certain groups of students, high school, and the Common Core, among others. Our partnerships across diverse providers to help build vehicles for how we can leverage other entities to both assist in our school improvement efforts, as well as to more proactively provide program options our city needs. And our site-based governance policy, which increases the role of stakeholders in our schools' important decision-making around continuous improvement. The policy is essentially broken into two parts. One part of the policy focuses on the continuous school improvement process, and the other part of the policy includes specific support structures for those efforts. With respect to the continuous improvement process outlined in the policy, there are essentially 4 steps that are identified. The first step is the establishment of quality standards and priority goals, which we've done as a district both through the strategic plan quality standards and through the development of our priority goals that are subsequently outlined in our scorecards. Then there's the expectation of assessing our schools against those standards and goals. which is in part the way in which we have developed our school quality review process, which evaluates our schools against the quality standards, and our balanced scorecards, which provides an indication of school progress against specific goals we've set. The next step in that process is the continuous improvement planning, where you take the assessment of a school's progress against the standards and goals and develop plans for improvement. And the district has engaged in a redesign of our site planning process so that it can become a more comprehensive or all-encompassing plan and process for continuous improvement that engages a broad base of stakeholders. And ultimately, the policy expects the development of a plan, a 3-year plan that describes the strategies the schools will use to improve. And our 3-year community school strategic site plan has been designed to be aligned to our quality standards and is now a web-based tool that's available for greater access to the community to participate. We'll talk specifically about each of these areas in their development. Specific to the first element of standards and goals, we provide in each of the subsequent slides some information about the developments to date since the approval of this policy back in April. We have engaged in the scorecarding efforts that the board has had an opportunity to participate in our recent presentation of the district scorecard, as well as scorecarding that identifies the progress of individual schools. We have recently translated these scorecards into the various languages that are representative of the families that we serve and are developing plans for both communication and engagement around those scorecards in the school communities. We've initiated the development of rubrics specific to the standards that we've approved around central office quality. So this year we will be developing those rubrics in support of our initiation of central quality reviews of specific departments. And additionally, we've begun a process over the last several months of developing presentations for these both scorecards and school quality standards so that we can initiate broader engagement with stakeholders and school communities around their use. With respect to the element of assessment of the standards, we've engaged in a variety of things to help broaden the impact of the school quality review process that we've been engaged in for the last 2 years. We're aligning the data profiles in those school quality reviews to be aligned to the balanced scorecard indicators. We've expanded the role of the school quality review lead evaluators so that they continue to work with the SQR schools in the fall of the subsequent year to help provide guidance in their improvement planning. So we've initiated that this year for schools that went through the school quality review last year. So last year's schools now have the additional support of the lead evaluators that they engaged with last year in their school improvement planning this fall. We also have additional support being provided by our recently hired directors of instruction for additional guidance and support around school quality improvement. We have also incorporated specific goals into the SQR plan to make it more obvious in their site plans. So the school site plans will now this year, which you'll receive for approval at the end of this year, identify what goals has the school set as a result of the school quality review that they underwent. We've also begun to further develop the dissemination plan. At the back of this presentation, there's an appendix that includes a description of the dissemination plan that's been implemented, and it provides an indication of the different bodies of the school community that have an opportunity to receive the information from the school quality reviews. We've also continued to engage school quality review teams. For example, specifically this year, we'll continue to engage the school quality review teams at the district's board priority high schools. So, for example, Castlemont and Fremont had school quality review teams constituted this fall, and they'll remain participants in the continued process of supporting the school to take up the results of the school quality review process at those sites. And we're beginning to continue our efforts to further disseminate the results. So we have posted last year's school quality reviews both in summary formats as well as in comprehensive formats on our district office website, and we'll be linking that and posting that with our district overall website, and all of the school quality review reports are attached to each school's site plans. With respect to the element of the continuous improvement planning process, we provide some information as to the updates that we've been engaging in around supporting the continuous improvement planning process. This includes what was previously mentioned as the expanded roles of the lead evaluators to support that planning process. It also includes that we've developed a more formalized leadership structure in our district around overseeing the site planning process. Previously, that's been oftentimes a compliance-oriented task, yet we know that the legislature's intent was largely to engage a broad base of stakeholders in making important decisions. So we've now developed a more clear structure of the district facilitator for that process, cross-departmental leaders that are a part of an executive leadership team, and specifically identified staff in the district who are part of an implementation team to help support the various efforts to build capacity in schools to develop a collaborative planning process. We have focused our capacity building in specific areas, and additionally outlined in the appendix of this presentation, there is examples of what the focus is: developing capacity around setting goals, developing capacity around developing theories of action, which is specifically a school identifying what its philosophy is about how it will achieve its goals. We've seen that high-quality schools frequently have that clearly articulated not only in their plans, but across their school communities. And to develop the skills to engage in cycles of inquiry, so that looking at data, developing strategies, implementing high-quality action plans, and then reflecting on those results to further improve those plans is a capacity that we want all stakeholders to build over time. And we've got key staff engaged in the site-based governance task force that you have charged with developing administrative regulations for your site-based governance policy, so that that process is integrated into this quality school development policy. And of course, we continue to do our work with the districts involved in the core school quality improvement system, so that we integrate this into the forthcoming system of evaluating school quality and holding schools in our organization accountable for those quality schools. In this section around continuous improvement planning, we provide a brief summary of some of the preliminary goals that we have around providing tiered support for schools. So we recognize that, similar to providing support to students in schools, schools themselves need a tiered level of support. So there are specific supports around continuous improvement that we are and expect to continue to provide to all schools. And some of that is outlined here in the presentation. We additionally continue to expect to have a select set of schools that need additional support and resources and assistance and guidance to allow them to continue to build their capacity to improve. Ultimately, as is true with the support of many of our students in schools, there are instances where more significant intervention is necessary. And so we begin to articulate what we would look forward to developing as the types of what we would refer to as Tier 3 interventions for schools that need levels of support that go beyond what all schools receive and even what some schools receive. Specific to Tier 1 level support, we articulate here in the presentation some of the specific support that's provided to schools. This includes a focus on Common Core curriculum, for high schools, an emphasis on linked learning, a focus on the social and emotional learning needs of students, as well as the Transforming School Culture, or what we our voluntary resolution plan. We provide support across the district to all schools through professional development, opportunities for schools to receive mentorship and support, and building capacity of stakeholders, as well as developing resources and tools. And details of that can additionally be articulated, but it exists in the mentoring programs we have with principals, the network meetings that we have for our schools and school leaders. We have a mini retreat that we'll be hosting for all schools that will include parents, teachers, site leadership, and partners around continuing to develop their capacity for continuous school improvement planning. This year, our core waiver school quality improvement system has identified schools that have been characterized as priority or focus schools, which specifically means that these are schools identified as in need of additional support. So we could characterize some of that support as our Tier 2 level support. And outlined here are some of the specific, both currently in implementation or in development aspects of that second level support. That second level support includes the identification of a lead facilitator that's providing support, coaching, and guidance for schools in their continuous improvement planning, which was mentioned earlier, can include the school quality lead evaluator. We have a pairing process. We will be pairing these schools with either other schools in our district or in districts across the core waiver districts where they'll be able to share practice. We have reading reward schools pairing, where we have identified schools with high quality reading cultures, as well as a demonstrated high performance in moving student literacy achievement, where we'll be pairing those schools with priority and focus schools. And the list continues on with a variety of other specific supports and resources targeted at schools identified for additional support. So this is an example of what we would characterize as Tier 2 support and intervention. In this next slide, we provide a brief overview of considerations being given to the types of Tier 3 intervention and support that is not yet in place, but under consideration and potentially future development. It first acknowledges that as you would do with students in a school, you would first invest in your Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions to provide not only the opportunity for improvements to occur with that level of support, but to provide a foundation so that even if Tier 3 intervention is inevitably necessary, it's building off of the existing work that you're doing to support the schools. We need to have clear criteria for identifying schools for Tier 3 intervention. We know that change is often difficult and requires the ability to believe that the objective way in which we identify schools for that change is measured by the metrics that we believe matter. So we would expect to include the kind of identification process that has school quality review results, the scorecard results, and other relevant data. Could be finance and or enrollment type data that could inform the identification of schools needing this level of support. And we're looking at the role of the core waivers designation of priority schools as a factor. Possible significant intervention strategies, which could come as a combination of any of the following, might include site-based school redesign processes, which is similar to those efforts that produce schools like Greenleaf Elementary, Acorn Elementary, Life Academy, Manzanita Seed, all schools who underwent a school redesign process and are producing high results for kids. A selected model school replication approach, which is not unlike the work that produced Oakland International High School, which is modeled after similar newcomer schools in New York and elsewhere. It might include a diverse provider partnership and school redesign, which is not unlike the work that produced Met West High School, which was the result of a partnership with a big picture company that developed Met schools in Rhode Island and are now in dozens of cities throughout the nation. And it may also include alternative governance, such as joint governance models to include MOUs with diverse providers, which is not unlike the work that produced Street Academy, which originated from an MOU between the district and the Urban League to operate a very unique alternative education model for students. Ultimately, what we want to be able to provide is opportunities to consider an array of strategies to support schools at every level. We include here some preliminary supporting conditions. And while not listing all of those that are represented here, identify that some of those supporting conditions include developing high-functioning site governance teams, the ability to ensure that we're applying the family engagement standards that were adopted by the board so that there is broad-based engagement in any of these significant interventions, the ability to ensure that there is partnership between the central office and the school community in the development of these strategies, clearly define roles and responsibilities for everyone involved, including any diverse providers that are engaged, as well as ensuring that we provide the necessary resources. Resources for both the coaching, the support, the management, the communication, the engagement, the variety of things that are necessary when going through a serious and significant change process. The policy identifies the term diverse providers and specifically calls out the concept of a qualified diverse provider. So staff is providing the board with a preliminary consideration of definitions associated with that term with respect to the policy. We describe the concept of a qualified diverse provider as either being an education or community-based nonprofit organization. It may be a charter school operator. It would be an organization with a positive assessment of a track record of services and or performance. That assessment would include improvement on measurable outcomes with a focus on improved outcomes for student performance. So an organization that's provided a demonstrated history of improving student performance outcomes, specifically aligned to our district priorities in the balanced scorecard. And that it would be an organization with a demonstrated interest, skill, and capacity to provide support towards school improvement. We also make reference to the concept of partnership in the policy, and so we wanted to provide some specific language around preliminary definitions of that. Partnership under the policy might look like agreements to provide specific technical assistance towards school improvement, agreements to share effective practices relative to school improvement, the leveraging of mutual resources such as philanthropy, professional development, facility space, et cetera, to reinforce the diverse provider expertise or capacity to positively impact the school improvement efforts. There would be the expectation of mutual agreement on the outcomes of that improvement effort, and a policy of shared decision-making. So these are elements or attributes of partnership with respect specifically to this policy and diverse providers. The fourth component of the continuous improvement aspect specific to the policy is the 3-year plan. As mentioned previously, we've redesigned the site plan in the district to be aligned to the quality standards and provide an opportunity for schools to encapsulate their entire school improvement plan in one place, as opposed to the historical focus that site plans have had of just those elements tied to categorical spending. And so this Community School Strategic Site Plan, or what's referred to as the CSSP, we have some ongoing development in those areas. One, we're aligning the data sets that are included there to the balanced scorecard goals. We have revised language so that this board should expect to see plans this spring where it's much easier to determine what is this school doing in transforming school culture aligned to the VRP, what is this school doing to support students with special needs, what is the school doing to support English language learners, and specifically in what ways is the school moving its curriculum and instruction towards the Common Core. We've revised the format to include every school's ability to articulate their theory of action so that it's more commonly held and understood in the school community and abroad. And we're developing continued efforts towards how the plan itself is communicated and broader engagement takes place in the planning process. The board additionally included in the policy a fund referred to as the Innovation Fund. The fund was established based on board intent to catalyze improvement of key aspects of the continuous improvement process. It was also identified in the budget adoption that these funds were intended to leverage additional fundraising efforts. We've identified a few specific areas where these funds could be best leveraged. Most of it is focused on continuing to build the capacity of school communities to continuously improve in their planning. So it talks about developing the capacity to use data and evidence in the planning process. It talks about the ability to engage broad stakeholders and resources to support that. It talks about the ability to provide support to specific schools that submit requests for funds associated with elements of their improvement planning for which resources are necessary, and to continue the broader engagement and communication of plans and the need for resources to help support that. It does note here that it's not yet clear whether or not these funds will be self-renewing, ongoing, or one-time. Obviously, there's policy implications, therefore, for the board to consider. The final element that's outlined in the board policy is specific to facilities, and we have associated that with the district's asset management policy, which it adopted in August of this year, which occurred subsequent to the adoption of this quality school development policy. It's called out here specifically to align any efforts to consider the use of our facilities, particularly around school improvement, with that policy. It names a few areas that we would expect to be associated with the asset management plan that would be associated with this policy. We do believe there's a need to analyze citywide enrollment, demographics, population growth, and decline trends so that we all have a commonly held view of our city with respect to the students and families that we serve and the various trends in their enrollment and demands and choice for schools. We do believe that we need to continue to develop a both comprehensive and accurate inventory of our available space, establish standard loading ratio so that we can strategically assess our space utilization, establish a fair rate for the use of facilities by non-district programming, and to make proactive decisions about program placement growth and reduction. Ultimately, this would help to determine the number of schools, location of schools, and types of schools that are needed over time. Oops. And then the board had requested some description of what we view as the alignment with key priorities that include the core waiver school quality improvement system, the local control funding formula, and the voluntary resolution plan transforming school culture. We believe that the policy is intended to be the school site expression of those priority initiatives. So we characterize each of those initiatives as being aligned to this policy in that they all have target populations that are expected to receive differentiated support. They all allocate resources based on need. They all demand an analysis of data to monitor and inform decision-making. They all demand consultation and engagement of broad stakeholders, and they all essentially contribute to the establishment of new accountability systems. This is articulated to both show the alignment across those as well as the way in which this quality school development policy reinforces them. And lastly, with respect to policy and budget implications for our board, we provide a few specific recommendations of varying grain sizes to consider. One specifically is around a possible name change to this policy, to instead be referred to as the School Quality Development Policy, a slight change, but it just reinforces the other terms we use, such as School Quality Review, School Quality Improvement System, School Quality Improvement Index, etc. Additionally, the expectation that the board continue to develop policies that provide differentiated support, targeting specific student populations that are outside the sphere of success. We encourage the board to consider policy language and funding needs for interventions to address persistently low performance based on the balanced scorecard and SQR. This is relative to the Tier 3 interventions that were described earlier. So policy from the board as well as resourcing to those types of interventions is necessary. And to consider the budget implications for going beyond assessing school quality towards proactively developing quality programs such as pathways and academies, neighborhood and feeder patterns, grade configurations to expand quality seats, and model school program replication as a few examples. And with that, we provide for the board an opportunity to ask questions and engage in discussion. Thank you.